Legion. Thanks for being scary still.
Yeah. Hey, Legion, thank you for just being unnerving and nightmarish.
Yeah, remember when everybody thought New Mutants was going to be the X-Men horror thing?
Nope.
Legion's been X-Men horror for 3 seasons now, going strong.
Yeah. Didn't that get pushed back again? Like, today?
I don't know.
It's been pushed back to whenever Bob Iger decides to let it go.
Okay,
Until you just mention it right now, I forgot it existed, which is sad.
What you saw, Lou, was the original delay announcement or that Matt posted in the group that was like, it might miss its original release date. It was like April 18th, 2018.
Oh, God, okay.
Wait,
that movie's never coming out.
Someone else did that with something recently, too. Oh, it was the fucking Doomsday Clock delay. And the reaction was like, the more things change, the more things stay the same.
No, Ryan, who does the comic show with us, is like, or basically I told him his job is to just post whenever Doomsday Clock gets delayed at this point on the show. Because we're almost, when it is set 2 years in the future, we're just about 2 years into the entire run. And there's still 2 more issues left of the run.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, at this point, it needs to end in the highest of highest possible notes, or I'm just not going to give a shit. Because when you take 7 to 8 issues to get good, and you're trying to be the next, like the sequel to Watchmen, no, I'm good. Whatever. But anyway, we're not talking about either of those things tonight. We're doing we're talking about Legion episodes 3 and 4, as noted by my intro. And it's still fucking frightening. I'm kind of wondering what all this Charles Xavier stuff is about. So anyway, I'm Connor McGraw. Who else is here?
Arlen Harrow.
I guess I'm Hunter Davenport. Very
Oh, sorry, didn't mean to step on you. I'm Erik.
You can't step on Hunter. He's way too tall.
I am a 9,000-year-old man.
And I'm Lou Gonzalez.
Is somebody in a forest?
I'm outside.
That's what I thought. Okay.
I hear lots of crickets.
Yeah, you know.
No, that was Otis, dog reporter.
It's better than
he's actually passed out.
It's better than the artillery barrage that you went through that one time. So
it's nice ambiance.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the time like we're all outside. So yeah, Legion 3 was. Did it have a? They're not titled. They're just chapters.
It's chapter 23, I think.
Yes.
Chapter 22 and chapter 23. 22, by the way, since we're sort of talking about titles, it's directed by the same guy who did the Multiverse episode from last season. And Erik will know what this means, but he directed the episode of Fargo featuring the robot boy. So yeah.
Which season was that?
Every time
season 3. It's when she goes to LA.
I didn't finish season 3. I never finished
did you get to the episode where she was in LA and she was like investigating? No.
Nope.
Oh wow.
I did not. Yeah.
Every time
my wife and I watched like 2 episodes.
Every time you bring up a weird thing about Fargo, it is like listening to someone who's talking about Red Dead, but you didn't cast the part where they said Red Dead. So you're like, "Yeah, you find the robot?"
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
but anyway, there's a robot boy at one point, so that's a thing. Yeah.
Huh. That's not surprising.
So this episode, we finally get what I would call 2 seasons of hype that have. I would call it a suitable payoff so far, because even the bits we got are super fascinating. Because I think there's some oddness going on with Dave's mom that we don't really know about yet.
I think that's just that actress. I know her from Mr. Robot, where she plays an exceptionally weird character.
Well, no. I mean, I don't think we don't really find out why she's in the mental institute, do we?
No, she's in the mental institution because she is being in a concentration camp.
Okay,
because she's virtually comatose. That was my assumption.
I think she's way more fucked up than she's letting on. And I don't think she's.
We see a bit of it in the next one, but also she wasn't just in Mr. Robot. She was in season 1 of Legends of Tomorrow.
Holy shit! Right. Who the hell was she in that?
She was the female Firestorm, the Russian.
I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say she was the knight that stabbed Hawkman.
I completely forgot about a lot of
season 1.
That's one of
the better seasons from episode from season 1. That's where That's where Wentworth Miller says, "This isn't my first prison break."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she has the whole thing with what's his name?
Mick,
the professor, I think.
No, or is it? Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
because like she's trying to recreate the Firestorm thing.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
and Professor Stein,
I completely forgot that was.
And Professor Stein basically like just swallows a nuclear bomb for lunch, and that's how he.
Right, like you do. Yeah.
And then I think shortly after that we got Bird People, and that show really sucked for quite a while.
But anyways, the director of this episode is directing 2 other episodes this season, so clearly he is well liked.
Well, I got bits of that multiverse thing, like when his mother was talking about, like, what will you be when you grow up? And while they didn't show anything, I think explicitly from that, just the kind of the thread she was verbally weaving, I was like, oh yeah, we're kind of touching back on that.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of questions about this episode, about like what they're trying to say. So I'm just trying to like put it out there so when we get to it, to remind me, because I'm kind of confused about some of the things she says in her letter. That when we see it is actually just 2 lines of actually like not lines of written, just like she drew 2 lines on a piece of paper.
I think some of it might be that the timeline is sort of
glitching.
Mobile. Yeah, I think it might be some of that. It could be that she has powers and that even Xavier doesn't know it. That's a possibility, and it's the kind of twist that I could see Holly doing if it's set up well.
Now, it was in the back of my head the whole time, like, what if a lot of David's issues are kind of inherited from his mother, and that maybe
that's what I was thinking.
Maybe she has
kind of setting up.
Maybe she has some kind of freaky trait or ability or power that, in conjunction with Xavier's,
that would be interesting because if I remember correctly, in the comic, like his mom just kind of is never talked about really anymore. Like she's a non-entity. Like she's just
right.
So I don't know. I'm trying to be into that if that's
who is his mother in the comics? Is she even named?
She's
That's what I was just looking at.
It's not Moira.
It's not Moira.
It looks like she is the
Moira. Moira
she's
has
Gabrielle Haller. Yeah, that's her name in the comics.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, so that's cool. They kept the name.
Something you guys might be discounting too is like Xavier was the one who pulled her out of her mental psychosis, whatever you want to call it, and then he basically disappeared on her for a long time. Like, I don't know if it's actually that she has any type of extra abilities or anything like that, or it's just someone who's dependent on him, whether she realizes it or not, because he was so key to her life.
Well,
I was just saying that it's a possibility she might have abilities that might have something to do with it.
She could have mental illness, and when Xavier's around, he doesn't know it, that he's kind of keeping her head together.
Yeah, whether he realizes it or not.
Yeah.
And then, like,
I think that's also the case,
because like there are families where schizophrenia runs in the family and stuff like that. Like, what if any psychosis she has is passed on to David, and then in conjunction with Xavier's powers, like, congratulations, you've created a blueprint for the fucking Antichrist.
Yeah, I do think I think they're heavily hinting at the idea that his mental illness is maybe not as Farooq based as we assumed, and they're kind of pointing us in the direction of, maybe Farooq is why he's as sane as he appears. Maybe it's sort of the opposite. We've been sort of told by the narrative that Farooq made him the way he is, but it might not be the case.
That wouldn't be too far off from how do I put this? Slippery the show is with David as a character. Where it's like, spoilers, we didn't know he was like a really shitty person until we like look back. Essentially,
right.
Well, the thing is,
basically,
he never
we
had
to
the
have that
opportunity.
Kaiser Soze moment in the end of last season to sort of really realize it.
But so like that was his first opportunity to be kind of shitty, because it's the first time he had like wherewithal.
It's also one of the first moments where he was like, all right, I'm finally going to take agency over the situation, and I'm going to choose to do it in a really garbage way. Because like the rest of the show, he's been bossed around by Division 13. He's listened to other people. He's kind of like, yeah, okay, I need to do this. All right. And then he steps out on his own and is immediately like, "Fuck you guys!" Blah! Grabs his crotch and fucking destroys a bunch of robots.
Yeah, well, that's what plays into the second episode that we're gonna have here. But I like some of my questions are in this first episode. So we'll get back. Like, is his mom going like kooky when she's talking about like, oh, I have these amazing dreams, and then the shadows during the day? Is that all David, or is some of it Farooq?
Well,
I think it's mostly Farooq.
Well, here's the thing: the music is David. Like,
yeah, but that's always when she's asleep. When there's that music.
he's fucking doing a Hodor where he's carelessly time traveling and he's gonna fucking create something kind of bad for somebody.
Oh, well, he's basically making himself become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like he's directly the reason why he's the way he is.
Yeah, he's influencing his mom's like degrading sanity.
Yes.
Well, I think beyond that though, like it's more a larger metaphor. Like this entire season has been so far, is that David is responsible for all of his problems. Like,
well, it's not just that; it's also, I think, in the first or second episode, what Sid says is like, what if we're the ones that caused him to destroy the world, kind of thing. Like, you know, having future knowledge can change everything. Like, your motivations can be the cause, like...
It can, but we've only seen him travel in the past. We haven't seen him go to the future yet, at all.
Well, because, he's preoccupied with the past and fixing stuff.
I think Lou's referencing sort of future Sid. And
future Sid and stuff, but in season 2, because she references it in this season, I think in the second episode.
But that was the thing, like that, and I'm hoping we'll get more of where that came from, like how future Sid lost her arm. But I'm wondering if they're gonna shuff that off as an alternate timeline.
Yeah, well, because there's a lot of stuff that they said that's like, they're like, oh, is this how he destroys the world? So we've seen the lunchboxes thing, and then we see what we see in the fourth episode, and it's like, oh, maybe that's not it. Like, we're not really sure. We still haven't seen what it is. But every single thing that happens, like, oh, this is how he destroys the world. Oh no, this is how he does it.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the only people who know are currently in like a pocket universe and are separate from everything. Because the last time we saw them, they were like, "Oh yeah," and then David destroyed the world. Like, how was you were gay? But this episode's a lot of time with. I'm sorry, is this? What was this dude's name again? The actor who plays Xavier.
Oh, Harry. I cannot remember his last name now that you bring it up.
No, I have the IMDb pulled up. Hold on.
It's Harry something. But he's been in a lot of stuff. He was in
Harry Lloyd
with J.K. Simmons. And,
okay, I thought his name was evocative of Dumb and Dumber for some reason. I was right. He's awesome, and in some ways, I'm like, you're doing a McAvoy, but then like in other ways, I'm like, now you're doing a Hiddleston. Like,
I got a lot of Hiddleston
doing his own thing with it. I
actually at times was like, oh, he would be a really good Magneto too, like a young Magneto.
Yeah, he
like his look. Which
this is the second thing I've seen him in because I haven't seen him do anything else outside of Game of Thrones. So,
oh my god, I forgot that he was the what's his
name? He's
Viserion?
Viserys Targaryen, who gets a fucking pot of molten gold poured over his head.
Oh,
he's in like 4 episodes of the first season.
An episode of Game of Thrones I actually did see.
Yeah, he gets his crown.
That's when Aquaman dumps gold over his head.
Oh man, Aquaman!
Holy shit!
Aquaman killed Professor X.
Holy shit! You're right.
Yeah. I love that episode.
Oh, but also, the other big thing.
That's the first step everyone should have seen of Daenerys being a sociopath. Everyone's like, you should probably leave the room. She's like, nah. Oh, wow.
Well,
I mean, he kind of deserved it.
Oh, he definitely deserved it. He
deserved that shit. He was gonna like take her baby and like sell it for parts or whatever.
Yeah.
Some shit like that.
But anyway, I like what he's doing with Xavier, and I'm glad he's not trying to do anything for the movies. So
yeah, he's not trying to do an impersonation or anything.
He really does look a lot like Tom Hiddleston.
He does. He does have a very similar look, that very angular.
Yeah.
It's the look and how he talks and how he carries himself. Like it's
like that very fancy British, like not Cockney, the opposite of Cockney.
Actually, I need to channel Alan here real quick. Connor, you have seen him in one of the things, you just don't remember it.
Oh boy, what was
it? It's the Doctor Who episode that Alan quoted and tagged you in.
Jesus Christ! Where he put like a monologue on Facebook.
Yeah. But he plays like a gas alien.
What?
An alien made out of steam.
Wait, is this from New Who? Is this from
Yeah, it's Tennant's era. It's the episode where he turns into a human to hide from aliens.
It's sort of off topic, but I love Doctor Who out of context, and it makes me not think it because you say things, and I'm like, okay, yeah,
yeah. He turns into a human to hide from gas aliens.
Yeah. That's not even describing the Christmas special where he spends the entire episode in a bed, wakes up, fights an alien with a sword, gets his hand chopped off, grows a new one, and then pushes the alien off a spaceship.
Yeah, There's a lot of great ones. I mean, more where he shows up on a ship and it's literally Titanic in space.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen one episode of Doctor Who, and it was the Mount Vesuvius explosion or whatever.
Oh, that's a great one.
Where the guy in it becomes a later Doctor Who.
Yeah. And Amy Pond is also in that episode.
Say like. That's the episode where he met Charles Dickens, and it really sounds like the fucking adventures of. Oh god damn it! What was that show with the dog and the kid? The history show.
Oh, fucking Pee-wee, or not Pee-wee? Fucking. Oh god.
Oh wow! Didn't they make a movie of it like 7 years ago?
Yeah, they did. It was
nobody.
Yeah.
Tintin?
No,
not Tintin.
No,
it was Rocket and Bullwinkle offshoot.
Yeah. Oh.
Anyways, this is a tangent for another show.
Can we talk about? So we got one interesting thing, or I guess like we got one like kind of tease, but we got like a hard fact, which is the time this exists in the show.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, because this is post World War II, where we see Xavier. Mm-hmm. And so I would say was that like late 40s probably that they're an institution.
Yeah. And it seems like it does seem like a time or a universe where technology is very obviously far more along than it should be, which is where I think we all got the confusion from. We're like, everyone's dressed like the 70s. All the music is influenced by music from the 60s and 70s.
But they're riding around in a Final Fantasy airship.
They're on a Final Fantasy airship. There's fucking robots.
There's robots. There's multiple robots with mustaches.
Yeah.
Which saying there's fucking robots, which makes me wonder if people literally are fucking those robots.
Not yet. Probably not yet.
It would be real weird with the mustaches.
We get kind of a confirmation about time because David could be born in the late 40s. Or he could be born sometime in the early 60s.
I don't think there's that much of a time jump between the asylum.
I'm saying it's a possibility. You just look at technology and just like how the styles are.
Yeah.
The styles.
That's the thing. If you look at the styles that the people are wearing and the style of cars when they're out of the asylum, like that's not that far removed from the 40s. So that would be early to mid 50s at the absolute latest.
Yeah. You take a look at the mental institute setting and you go, oh, that's old asylum stuff. That's what that is because and that system is dead for more than one reason. I did like that part. Yeah. And thanks. I think it was Geraldo Rivera who went into one of those places after it was shut down or after it was.
No, he was the reason for one of the places getting shut down. Yeah, that was horrific.
It's like it's just like out of American Horror Story season 2.
Yeah.
But I love it. I like that part where Xavier's being psychoanalyzed by his shrink, I suppose, or one of the doctors, and he's just casually reading the guy's mind. He doesn't say anything.
I love the guy's like so much potential. Yeah, whatever.
What a useless lad.
But I do actually
like, just call me a lad. What? He just leaves the room.
Can we talk about I actually love the idea of why he is there when we see it. I was like, oh, that is a really interesting position to put him in.
Yeah.
when he's like in the foxhole. I was like, ooh, this is some like heavy ass shit.
Also, that was the most savage I've ever seen Professor X.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, especially with like how it's actually funny that like where the comics are right now. But like, yeah, to have him just like touch the guy's head and say, "Kill yourself."
It's funny as a child to watch Professor X go, "Ah!"
Kind of a perfect, it's a perfect origin for who that character is, though. If you think about it, the pacifist character that he's portrayed as, what can make somebody that hardcore of a pacifist?
He's using his power like in the most groveling, like clinging to life, like survival way.
It was probably the first thought that popped into his head, and he's like, "Yeah, go for it."
Because he could have solved it in 1,000 different ways with his powers. He can just been like,
he could have pacified that guy totally. He could say, "Get up, walk away,
go to sleep."
He used the movie rules. He could have just paused time easily. So
even just stop being a Nazi.
Yeah. Or he could have let him kill him and then jumped into another body that looks just like him.
He taps the guy in the forehead and goes, "You will not stop being a Nazi. They're bad." And the Nazi goes, "You just don't know. You just know the Western narrative from high school." Okay?
Well, if we could just all sit down and talk about this.
It wasn't even invented by Hitler. You know that, right?
Shutting down my podcast won't do anything.
Don't you hear the new Ben Shapiro?
And Xavier's like, "Okay, actually kill yourself, fuckface."
No, I mean that would also make sense why, and mind you, we're dealing with a unique version of Xavier here. We're not dealing with the one that we all know from the comics or movies.
Sure.
That
he hasn't had a brother like that turned into Juggernaut bullying him.
Yeah, well, I mean stepbrother, but it's also, this would explain going on that narrative, like someone who would want to teach people how to use their powers carefully.
Right.
Well, and we don't know how this show is going to end yet, but like, what if Noah Hawley like ends Legion on what would be a new dawn for mutants, which is where we would see a launch pad in this universe for the X-Men being formed?
Yeah,
I could see that.
I could see that. I could also see very Butterfly Effect, where David goes back in time and aborts himself.
But like we've also only seen like. We haven't seen that many mutants in this show for a show.
No, we have.
And
most of them are new. Most of them are original mutants, really, aside from Farooq.
Yeah, besides from him and Farooq, because Sid is like a pseudo rogue, and everybody else is like, because Ptolemy beforehand was what, like, he could enter your dreams. Was that his thing?
I was never really clear on what his thing was.
And there was the dude that, like, we don't remember, who was, like, a muscle guy from season 1. He got jobbed out real hard.
Yeah. Ptolemy was able to go back and see David, like, in his psychiatrist's office.
Oh, he could make you... He could go through your memories, is what it was.
Memories, okay.
Guide you through them.
Yeah, Ptolemy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, that would make sense, because wasn't it season 2 with the memory garden?
Yes, where he's cutting the roses, and he keeps forgetting.
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we had, what's his name, is the other psychic. So we'd have 3 psychics. Well, I guess 4, counting Professor X.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a shit ton of psychics compared to everybody else.
Well, did they ever really establish really well what Jermaine's character, what his abilities were? I mean,
I think he's also an immensely powerful psychic, because he has similar abilities that David does.
I would say, like,
Madeline just found each other, I guess.
I would say, like, David is like complete. What would you say? What's the term that they use for X-Men?
Omega level.
Yeah, he's like Omega, and then like Farooq and Xavier below that, and then what's his name is like the next step down.
The way I look at Farooq is that he's probably like in 100 AD or whatever. He was probably no more powerful than Xavier, but it's just how long he's been around.
Exactly.
It's
not a matter of raw power; it's experience.
Yeah, Farooq has no peer because he's been around for so long. So it doesn't matter who's stronger than he is. He's like, I've been alive for 2,000 years. He's like, there's an angle you could do I haven't seen yet.
Yeah. And powers, I guess, at least within the context of this universe, they just grow. They grow with your age.
Yeah.
And they sort of expand.
And that explains why he's so into Greco-Roman wrestling.
Homoerotic.
I do. That's another thing I like about
that
his
clip
character.
every once in a while because his performance in that scene is so fucking funny.
It's so good, yeah. His performance is great, and I love the sort of they're fleshing him out more, and you get more of the sense of like he doesn't care. Like he doesn't care about these people. He doesn't see them as like human beings.
They clearly show that in I think it's episode 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think like if you've already watched that one, Arlen, I think you know what I'm talking about. Maybe it's episode 6. Yeah, but there's a certain part, but I'm not going to go into that. But is there anything else we wanted to talk about with episode 3? I mean,
there's a bit more because it's we get some details about Switch's power and the limits of it, but all these flashbacks culminate with David's mom waking up, hearing her name being called, and she goes to leave her bedroom, and every entrance or exit, window, door, they're bricked
gone.
over, walled over,
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of undoes itself. And then when she goes into David's room, a fucking terrifying version of David from the future is standing there because he's kind of being like he's being projected. What is?
Oh wait, no, you skipped over a part. Like first, she goes into the room and she hears David, the baby, crying, and she goes to turn him over, but he has nothing. It's just the back of his face.
Oh my god! What the?
That was the horrifying part.
Yeah,
yeah.
Which I don't know what the significance of that is. Like, is it just his mom losing her fucking mind?
Well, yeah, because then she just screams, and then it's like normal baby. It's like okay.
Well, and before this, there is a close call with the Shadow King where she's watching TV. She's watching the same shit that Switch like very similar to what Switch.
Yeah, no, it's the same guy. It's the exact same thing.
Okay,
yeah, and he's speaking Japanese, which I'm like, okay, why is she watching a dude talk in Japanese?
Yeah, I think that's their time travel sort of bleeding in.
Okay, their Hodoring thing.
Yeah.
Because when she goes to do that, that's when Farooq makes his first attempt, and he fails.
Because David powers up. Which, it's interesting that he keeps... I like the kind of background narration that, like, David and Switch are looking on, and then Switch is, like, kind of dying or, like, passing out.
Yeah.
And David's like, why can't she see me? Why can't I interact? She's like, I've never gone this far back. I don't know.
And that's why when he's in the bedroom, like, he's like
an astral projection, but it's
it's like an apparition more or less because she's not really strong enough to bring him all the way back there.
Well, it's like a projection that's had like part of the projector covered over because I think that's why it looks so horrific was just because it wasn't his full image showing up. It was just parts of him.
And Xavier saw him and is like bye bye.
Like I cast you out like a Conjuring movie.
Well, the thing is, he probably thought it was the Shadow King because we know he just returned from dealing with him and from the phone call.
Like Xavier leaves because he's like, I found those. he's like, I found a friend, and then like,
don't ever go to there.
He calls. He's like, oh my god, that guy's terrible.
He's like, I'm never going to trust anybody like that again. Cut to however many years later. He's
I'm doing it again.
Well, and something we completely glossed over too is that we got to see a very prototype version of Cerebro being built.
Yes,
which I thought was great.
It was cool. Like, it was weird that it worked like a radio, where he had to like turn his chair to like get signal.
Well, it kind of makes sense. I mean, he's using relatively primitive technology, but it feels like they're going to. I guess they had to with Xavier being in this episode, but it was kind of nice to have a kind of heavier X-Men themed episode going on, for lack of a better term.
Oh yeah, and the house is definitely like vibes the X-Mansion in its design.
Yes, very much.
Which is funny that it's like not the same place that they've used for like 30 years in like a million.
Same fucking building. I'm also just glad that so far, like they waited this long to get a very X-Men heavy episode in, and like no one's turning towards the camera and going like. Like making a fucking X pun or whatever the fuck.
No one's going schnick.
Right, that would be really goofy. I like everything about this. I like that they sort of, again, they set up sort of this connection that Farooq has to David and this attachment that he has to David. And they kind of really sell you on Farooq maybe caring about him, especially in some later episodes.
The final scene of this episode is like Farooq in his mind holding baby David's mind, like rocking him, saying like, "Oh, my dear boy."
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, and I had another point there, but I can't remember. It sort of ties back to the multiverse episode. That's what I was going to say. And when we see if the vision of where Farooq and David have like melded, it sort of made me think of that, where they're sort of one person.
He's the shitty business mogul,
right? Or he's like pansexual, and he's like really just like doesn't care about human beings or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it made me think, maybe we were sort of misjudging that and assuming that it was sort of the worst aspects of Farooq taking over.
Nah,
or the worst aspects of David taking over.
Maybe he bullied the fucking Shadow King in that timeline and like got him to work for him within the confines of his own mind, and like that's how he became that dude.
Well, we see in that episode how he came there, because it's the same timeline as when he's like the intern at the bank or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I assume that those are all different timelines. It's just that we're seeing them next to each other as sort of a...
Oh, I think there's there's
the,
4 timelines, and we see progression in each.
Yeah. The intern at the bank one was totally the progenitor to him being the terrible monster, pansexual, bored with everything.
Yeah.
It's like the other one where he's like taking all of his pills and kills the cops is the one that's like that she's bathing him at the end when he's all old.
Well, no, because he dies in that timeline. He gets shot by the cops.
No. He does not die. He gets crippled.
Yeah.
And then that's when she's bathing him.
Yeah, we see all these different various branches of things that go on. That's why they present it in a very, it can be confusing way. But I think we're meant to believe that each one is sort of a branch off of another. I think the homeless David and that sort of pansexual mega businessman, I think those are supposed to be, 2 branches of the same timeline, one going one way and the other going another.
Yeah, they're the complete opposite ends of the spectrum of where he could go.
Then where does Meth David land?
In the middle.
See, in a diner eating fries, I guess.
In a diner talking to Miles Morales, and he's like, all right, this is my universe, and this is yours, and it's gross and soggy.
Yes.
Yeah, because Meth David reminds me of like an old Iron Fist story when what's the guy, Eric, you probably know, the one where he meets the other Iron Fist?
Orson?
Yes, Orson has been hiding by just doing heroin to like keep down the chi.
Yeah, he's been smoking opium.
Yeah, in order to subdue the chi of the dragon.
That's actually hilarious.
Well, it makes sense.
Kind of that's what Meth David is to me.
So he slowed the dragon by chasing the dragon.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's with that Orson. What is it? Not
Orson Randall.
Orson, I think it's Orson Randall. Like it would be taking place in technically the way they're telling it would be like the 20s or 30s, and that's when opium dens were really big. But that doesn't really make sense for some of the things that happened in the
Johnny Depp died in one, a really bad movie.
Terrible adaptation. Back to Legion. So what else did we want to bring up? I mean, it's that ending kind of is just like, okay, so David kind of made himself become possessed because of his arrogance.
I think the other interesting thing, which they actually did with the dialogue, is that how circular things are. When he even makes the joke to Switch, it's like, oh, my parents met at an institution. I guess it runs in the family.
Yeah,
I like that bit. And I like the sort of mythologizing that David does for himself, and that it sort of doesn't turn off. He's just sort of gone into full cult
I was going to say, he is really bad in that department, these 2 episodes, because like he's without anybody around him to level him and humanize him, he is full on like, I'm a god, like I can do anything.
Well, the problem is he is.
Yeah.
But apparently they used the exact same dialogue they did for him in Sin from season 1. In the conversation between Xavier and Gabriel, or Gabrielle, when she says, "When the time comes, prove me wrong." That's an exact line from the first season, or season 2, from last season. Sorry.
I really do wonder if like the end of the show is like you said, David aborting himself, and maybe that's the timeline where the X-Men exist or something.
Or David puts himself into an asylum.
Mm-hmm.
Like he cuts his own powers off.
Or like when he hangs.
What's the character who his evil identity is like the Void or whatever?
Sentry.
Sentry. I wonder if they'll do sort of one of those where Sentry like locks himself away because he's too powerful, I think, or something.
Yes.
Something crazy like that.
1,000 exploding suns.
But that entire storyline is just kind of crazy because
it's dumb. Because they retcon. It's a retcon that he always exists.
Is that the one where like it's Xavier, but he's a big fucking like Sentinel Magneto looking motherfucker?
No, that's when he's Onslaught.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Onslaught.
Basically,
the Sentry is like a Superman clone, but like retcon. He's the one in the giant yellow costume with blonde hair and a giant WWE belt.
Doesn't he rip someone in half?
Yeah,
across
he ripped
a 2-page spread.
Carnage. I think
he throws Carnage into the sun.
Yeah. So wait, was that? Oh, that was Hercules, or not Hercules? It was Ares. Then.
He rips someone like it looks like something at a blood strike. It's like from one side of the one page into the next page onto the other one is just viscera. Like
he's got like a dead look in his eyes too. It's great.
Yeah, because they like David. They basically say like, yeah, you're schizophrenic.
Well, that was near the end of the Bendis run, and that was when Norman Osborn had been manipulating him for quite a while. So
that fucking was it. You who posted that Bendis Morrison thing in the group?
That was Morrison and Millar actually.
Oh, okay.
Millar. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Anyways, a lot of that Sentry stuff can be recycled. I feel like
who's Sentry again? Oh yeah, I'm sorry. You just answered that question.
It's basically it's a character they came up with to like say, oh, he existed the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, the premise was that like he was a superhero that everybody forgot about, but he purposely did that. Anyway, so this is too deep into the Sentry. Like, who cares about the Sentry?
Next, I feel like they're based off my very limited knowledge of the Sentry. They are very similar characters, just in terms of like
in some ways, yeah.
In that they're omnipotent power almost, and that they're both schizophrenic kind of.
Yeah.
No, guys, let's talk about more obscure X-Men characters. Let's talk about Strong Guy.
Right.
God.
Guido is awesome. He was great in X Factor. Don't even.
I had that toy.
That's how I know about the Strong Guy. I know, it's because I had a toy of him when I was little, and I've never seen him since.
Like, you'd be better off bringing up Maggot if you wanted to bring up crappy X-Men
I like bringing up Strife because you look at me and go, what the fuck is that design?
Oh, well, he was a clone of Cable.
He's one of the 17,000 different Nate Grays.
Yeah.
Which I think in like one of the A&L comics we were trying to figure out which Nate Gray is which. Because there's like a new young Cable.
Of course there is. Okay, anyways.
Getting into the weeds.
Let's talk about our other time-traveling mutants with psychic powers.
Well, before we move on to the next episode, do we want to use the rubric that we've been using? What was it? Good? Is this a good episode of the series, and is this a good episode of a TV show in general?
Let's do. Is this a good episode of the series first?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Great episode of the series. I would put it in the all-timer category with that multiverse episode and the silent-ish. I can't remember if it's all silent, but silent-ish episode.
Yeah.
The episode where Oliver does the thing, and So I would say it's pretty good.
I think it was necessary.
Not a good episode for a newbie to sit down and watch. They'd be like, "Who are these people? What is the significance? Who's the echoey guy? What's the cloud?"
I think a newbie who knows the X-Men can jump into this, but not a newbie that knows nothing.
Yeah, somebody who knows X-Men well enough, and somebody who's like a hardcore horror fan, like Joe would like this. Joe would like this quite a bit.
I'm trying to get him to watch it. It's taking.
I know, but if you just show him this episode and
show him the creepy baby,
basic context, like this is this character, this is that character, I think he would really dig this. I know that he has some appreciation for very atmospheric stuff.
And just like good filmmaking and like off the wall stuff. It's just a matter of time before I get you in the episode and we team up on him.
Right.
Watch Lee, you son of a bitch.
wear down his defenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Lou said, like you guys have all said, like if you're an X-Men fan and you have some knowledge of Xavier's inability to keep it in his pants, then yeah, like this might be good for you. But if you're coming in with no knowledge,
he went to quote unquote Morocco.
Yeah,
I was actually just thinking, is there a Marvel character with more bastard children than Xavier?
I don't think so.
What is he, a Greek god?
I mean, does Matt
He's
Murdock
like-
wear a condom? No, he's Catholic. He doesn't wear a condom. So
Yeah,
maybe
but they've never touched on it. So
they've
as far as I know.
never touched on it. But maybe.
Well, he's English. He wouldn't be Catholic.
Well,
Yeah.
He,
No, I was talking about Matt Murdock specifically.
he doesn't have any kids.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like he should by now. I feel like.
Well, yeah, but with his senses, he'd be able to tell, so he could know exactly when to pull out
Yeah.
and
What is he, hear it coming? That's awful.
shoot it all over Black Widow's titties.
God damn you.
But yeah, if you're just the layman coming in, like I want to check out this Legion show, like you're gonna hate this.
Yeah,
I
if
don't
you're
think-
only
hate
exposure
this.
as Bryan Singer's X-Men movie, this is not for you.
No,
This
Yes.
is a no-go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this
Maybe
isn't
we're-
even. I
Maybe.
was gonna say this isn't even one of like the crazy artsy ones just to watch for like the first episode where it's like, oh, it's just crazy. Like this is like kind of heavily steeped in
Yeah.
X-Men lore.
Like,
Yeah.
and now a musical interlude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is funny because that gets called back in the next episode.
Yes, it does.
If you've read a lot of the Chris Claremont X-Men run, just from what I know of that run, maybe you could probably sit in on this and have
well, if you've read the entire Chris Claremont X-Men run, then you're probably watching Legion along with anything else that
You
has
never
any
know.
relation to it.
never know.
Like,
They're already
I
watching
don't
the show.
even know FX is a channel, okay? Okay.
I
Yeah.
think you're
And
stretching that.
When they
one
find
there,
out, they'll have The Americans to watch, and Fargo, and Justified.
If you are a fan of the Claremont X-Men run, you're not going to choose Fargo over the show called Legion that is
No,
about
that's not my point.
Xavier's son.
I'm talking about the world
One of
where
his
Erik. They've read all of Claremont's X-Men, but the Shield never hit their radar, so they don't know.
Oh, that is a good segue because that
Oh, I mean,
appears.
yeah, that is something that's something
Okay,
that
straight up, like I was
I got tricked.
watching it. Okay, me too, because I'm not watching this on FX's website. So for a second, I was like, "Oh, it's an ad." Wait a minute, no, it's not. What's happening? Like,
I thought it was an ad too because I was watching on demand and I was like, because I think I put in the thing. It's like, oh, every other commercial in like the on demand is for like drug rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was like a weird like
knowing their audience.
go
Eh?
back and see our old shows.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
no.
And it's like one of the most famous scenes too. And it like played for me. I was like, oh, this is a really cool ad. I forgot all about how good this show is and how good Michael Chiklis was. It's
Yeah,
like, no,
it's
the
like,
good cop and
it's
bad cop
It's the
left.
most. It's the most meta bullshit ever because it thrusts you into a show that's 50 years into the fucking future.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 50 years in the
Only
future
exists-
in the show and 20
that
years like old.
Only exists in our timeline, our reality. So it's like, oh, it switched over to the Shield. Wait a second, what's happening?
So Michael Chiklis,
What's
the
happening to
actor,
me?
Michael Chiklis, the actor, exists in the Legion world.
Oh God,
Yeah.
did he do a Fantastic
Yeah, I
Four?
was gonna say yeah. So does that mean that he was Ben Grimm in the Legion world?
No, better question. Does that mean he was in Gotham in the Legion?
Oh god. Hey, it's still Fox. It's FX.
What is he in witness protection?
Actually, both of those things are Fox. So all three of them.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, some would say he's a company man. Yeah.
You would have to be a company man to agree to Gotham.
Probably.
Hey, you want to come on this Batman show? Sure, I love Batman.
About that.
Don't tell him.
Which do you think is a worse comic book adaptation?
Wait, who say which do you think is a worse comic book adaptation?
Yes, the Fantastic Four that he's in, like those two movies,
Oh, okay.
or his run on Gotham.
Well, I don't. Oh man,
That's hard.
Gotham. Gotham right away. Gotham, yeah.
Here's the thing. Fantastic Four had the people behind that had the wherewithal to be like, all right, yeah, this didn't work out, whatever. And Gotham kept existing, seemingly not able to justify its own existence, and went on for 5 fucking years.
Fantastic Four.
They were like, it's not a Batman show, and they're like, it's a fucking Batman show. We're sorry. Here's Batman. He looks dumb. Mom said it's my turn to be Batman. That's how he looks in that fucking costume.
Back to Legion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is where Legion decided, hey, it's been a while since we've shown you something terrifying. Snaps their fingers.
And the fucking blue meanies of time show up.
Yep.
That design is so on point.
Yep.
It's weird and terrifying, and the way that they do the filming, the herky-jerky, cuts is so wonky.
Well, that was simple and very obviously low budget at the same time.
It works so great.
That was the thing. My wife and I were watching it, and we're like, "What are those?" We couldn't tell exactly what they looked like because they don't let you focus on them long enough. I just saw.
When I saw teeth and eyes, I was like, "Fuck you!"
Mm-hmm. But then when they slow them down, it's like, oh, they look like dudes wearing goofy masks. Yep. But that's also extremely terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, and it just like I said, the thing that I was hoping or that I thought was going to blow all your minds, and then I realized I'm a 9-million-year-old man, was that they look exactly like the Blue Meanies.
I've never seen
the Yellow Submarine cartoon.
I haven't seen it in forever.
I don't. It's whatever. I'm kind of ambivalent about the Beatles. So
I didn't see it because I love the Beatles when I was 6. I saw it because I was like, oh, this is animated. Let's watch this.
I saw it in a class I had in high school. Right.
That must have been an awesome class.
We watched A Hard Day's Night in a class in high school. That's what we watched.
It was great.
Wait,
but also,
is A Hard Day's Night the movie that they did where it's a version of all the songs?
Oh,
kind of with some weird sketches in between.
Yeah, it's
wait, no, that's still the Beatles thing. I was thinking of there's a movie they did where it's all Beatles songs, but the entire thing is
across the universe.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Well, Hunter, what were you trying to say?
So I was moving it back to that design is so accurate. It makes it creepier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you look at it. It's I don't. Please stop.
It's like being attacked by Sesame Street monsters.
It is.
Yeah.
Who only move in TikTok formations and they can in short distant jerks
and reach through television screens
and about as focused as a Bigfoot video.
Yeah, but the crazy part was when it was moving. When they first see him, it's oh, and it's the time skipping. It's turn it off. And then just reaches through the screen.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was like, whoa, I didn't know they could do that.
Yeah. And this was great because we got to see Farooq actually kicking some ass for once. And
Farooq was like, "Get out of here, bitch!"
Well, he pulls that sword out of his mouth.
Oh, that's later on when he he does some weird hand movements and cuts his arm off.
Says "Demon be gone" or whatever the hell it was. Yeah.
He's never not smooth. That's
his default setting. Yeah, it's just great.
He pulled a fucking scimitar out of his throat.
Yeah, well, like Lou said, that's not till a little bit later. But I'm trying to remember what the progression was in this because we start off with David and Switch being bugged out or by the time demons.
Yeah, well, it's the end of the first episode. The first one.
Yeah, well, Sid leaves the room and you see the eyeball form. When she leaves, is it Carrie? Somebody leaves the room and the camera lingers in the room, and then the blue eyeball forms, and that's when you're like, man, what the fuck is that? But I think it starts with Ptolemy on the ship with Carrie.
With
She's
Carrie.
like, I miss Carrie, Mel Carrie, and Ptolemy's like, whatever, computer.
She's like, oh, why don't we go and have some fun? He just looks at her, and they're trimming his mustache, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. You're right. You're right. Because then when they realize there's something going on, he's like, "What did they do to my mustache?"
Right.
A mustache he questioned having the moment he discovered it, and now he's like, "Please trim it."
Yeah. And and this is where they forgot. Then she because we follow Carrie kind of through the ship, and she's like, "What the shit's going on?" and then she's just in Sid's room, and Sid's like, "What do you mean something's wrong with time?" And she's just like, "What's happening?
Yeah.
Who said that? I said that. Ptolemy said that."
It reminded me a lot of the Futurama episode where time keeps jumping ahead, and they keep at some point Fry jumps ahead. Leela, they're getting married, and Leela's like, "What the fuck? What is this?"
And he's like, "Oh my god, what did I do?"
He's like, "What did I do?" But that episode ends horribly because it's the saddest thing ever.
Futurama is always the saddest thing ever.
You rearrange the stars, and then they had to blow them up. But yeah, the time jumps start happening, but it's not time jumps forward exclusively. Like things from other timelines are just popping in and out.
Like Simmons on herself.
Also, yeah.
What's that? What was that, Arlen?
I said people are getting trapped in loops. Also, they're repeating moments over and over again.
Well, they kind of because Farooq explains that they're like termites,
right?
Of. So, at some point,
yeah,
they eat everybody's time and they're stuck frozen. But they could also touch things and decay them, through we're rushing them through time. We see that with the lunch boxes; they rust and then fall apart, and that's when Sid sees the apple in the room is starting to decay.
Yes.
And she's like, "Let's get the fuck out of here."
Yeah. Yeah.
The initial shot when they look at the monitors after the time jump starts happening and they see one of these fucking demons under someone's table forming. That's when I was like, "Oh, get the fuck out of here! What is that thing?"
Yeah, it took me a while. They're like, "What is that?" And I was like, "What is that?" And then once it turned to face, I was like, "Oh shit! What the fuck is that?"
Yeah.
It's the goddamn Babadook.
Perfect.
They let it in. Shame on them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we get. I think there's also bits in the beginning where Switch and David come back in the past, and Switch, her teeth fall out if she uses time travel.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like the further back she goes, the more she has tooth problems.
I was gonna say it's more that she exerts herself. She's kind of breaking down.
Yeah.
Because the first time is when she did 3 jumps in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but she makes it a point to say I don't my teeth keep falling out and I can feel them loosening. I'm like,
right. So she's slowly going to turn into a giant fly. Or something like that.
Was this the episode where she and David keep landing in the front yard?
Yes.
Okay.
That's how it kind of starts with them.
Okay.
And then what's her name? We get I can't remember Audrey Plaza's character with
Letty.
Salmon. Letty with Salmon, and they're kind of talking "Oh, let's leave," and then they just fall over there. And this is where, when we go back inside, David's like, "Oh, everybody feel good. They're all scared," and Switch tells him, "He's like, oh yeah, they live there, and they're time demons." And he's like, "Well, that would have been nice to know beforehand. Maybe next time, tell me about the time demons."
She's like, "Sorry, I didn't sign up to be your fucking, your temporal therapist, you fuckface."
Right.
And then he makes everybody go to sleep, and then right as Letty is going out, she's like, no, you get the chance to play weird daddy, whatever, but you need to get this shit done. She kind of dresses him down.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, "You don't want to make me mad." He's like, "No, that's exactly what I want to do."
Their relationship is not going the way I thought it was going to go.
I think she wants out.
Well, and they kind of established that early on.
Look what happened. She got fucking disintegrated in episode. Merged with a wall and fucking essentially just wrecked, and killed by.
She died, and her mind got absorbed.
And then she's just been passed along from master to master to master ever since she, was more or less unkilled.
Well, and then she got merged with his sister.
Yeah.
And now she has a girlfriend
we're not talking about for some reason. I thought that was going to be more of a thing, and it's just not.
Well, they kept the eyes, which is why she looks fucking crazed.
So bizarre.
And then that's her girlfriend, but David made a baby. And then we get the whole side thing with her, with the kid, which was fucking crazy in this episode.
Oh, God, that was awful.
The kid through line, that was the puppy from Futurama all over again. Futurama.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
I can't remember the name that Lenny wanted to give their child, but it was something ridiculous.
Violence.
Something.
Yeah. Lollipop, whatever her real last name is.
It was Violence Lollipop.
I like a game starring Arlene Sorkin. Anyways,
I love that name so much. It was perfect. Anyways, but yeah, the whole scene of her having to live through her child growing old in the same room with her, and her not being able to actually see any of the,
and
dying
and being turned to dust.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not just her, because the salmon is just gone immediately.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And we see that like a bunch of the people in the house are dusted.
Yep.
And I think the other big plot thing is mail carry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my god, he fucking killed me. When because of the temporal glitches, he gets the moments where David influenced him and essentially kidnapped him, like plucked from his head.
Well, here's my question: when he goes when he goes and finds, is that like the temporal demon's poop?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that too.
Because it's the blue goo that David's been making, but they're also kind of blue. So I was like,
I don't know if they're really that connected.
Well, because they destroyed all the lunch boxes, and they were like doing a bunch of other stuff. But it definitely looked like giant cat shit.
It was. That was 100% what it was supposed to be.
And he's poking at it and touching it.
He repeats his line of the season from season 2 when he finds out David mind warped Sid, and he goes, "Betrayal." This time he goes, "Treachery." Like he only expresses it one way.
Love it so much.
I imagine like someone steals something from him, he stands up and goes, "Thievery."
This is like an episode where we have like 7 different things going on at the same time. We have him and Switch, David confronting them because he's like, "Oh, don't make me have to," and then they show up and she's like, "Wait, what were we gonna say?" And then he's like, goes into a speech about being a god.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Which shows that his connection to reality, or at least what the real world is like, is very tenuous at this point at best.
Yeah. Also, Farooq, Lady Carrie, and guy whose name I still don't know.
Birdface, dude.
Dude.
They go.
They
get stuck in
quest.
They go into Legit, like they go into the movie that 12 Monkeys was based on. Like it's awesome. That was such a great decision by them to show it like that.
In like a silent movie, like super clip arty.
Not even a silent
it looks like old projection slides where and you go to the next one.
When it goes like beep, turn the slide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
Or like
that's when Farooq pulls a fucking sword out of his throat.
Yeah, girl Carrie gets like the shit kicked out of her at first, and then the guy shoots at the thing and misses, and then Carrie throws a spear and almost hits him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Shit!" Yeah. And then Farooq just walks in like Stone Cold and pulls a sword out of his throat.
I've never
chopped one and goddamn.
I've never seen Stone Cold do that, but
I mean, like they're like fighting, and he just like pops into the doorway, like
the attitude.
Tom eating sons of bitches.
Yeah,
drink a cold one.
The Attitude Era was almost 30 years ago. I could be misremembering it now.
Oh god.
Yeah,
You cut Joe Briscoe, and he's like, and then Stone Cold cut Vince McMahon in half with a sword.
Like, pulled out of his throat. The other thing we're not talking about is Sid talking with her younger self.
Well,
yeah,
that and the David stuff I think are kind of connected because,
in a way, but this was also how they really explain how Sid feels about her powers and how they really work. Like,
100%.
It was definitely totally like a rape or even molestation metaphor. Like how she's like, you convince yourself it's okay. I'm on vacation. I'm in somebody else's body. This isn't happening. And then you wake up and you smell something and you realize you smell that person smell. It's not you smell anymore. It's you. It's the other person you're smelling. And I don't know. It was really powerful to realize how like disgusting her powers are to her.
Yeah, and we get more into the incident with her mom and her mom's boyfriend, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the traumatizing part wasn't the sex; it was actually how the sex. Like, I'm trying to like, that it was like degrading. Yeah,
I don't know. In the same sense, if it was violent, gross, but it might also be because she was
a child
teenage girl,
and didn't really understand.
And that traumatized her so much. Like, she's never actually understood that, like, some people apparently like it rough. So
yeah, because that could have been like something that her mom was into. It's just for her. She said like, oh, I thought it was supposed to be love, and that wasn't that.
Yeah, like my wife and I were watching it when Sid's teenage or whatever said that. And my wife was just like, "Oh, sweetie, sweetie."
Oh my.
Oh, sweet summer child.
And Sid's like adult Sid's explanation of everything was interesting too. And she was also like, "Oh, and like I never got to talk to my future self, so I wonder you will have the questions to ask that I want to ask." And goes into like, "Oh, did you guys get married?" It's like, "No." It's like, "What happened?" And she's just like, "He turned me around." Was like, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that scene was handled well because even though you realize at the end that it was sort of fakery, it still works. Like, emotional stuff still holds up, even after the reveal. After you see the reveal with David and he realizes that that's fake, you just automatically put the pieces together that what Sid is seeing probably isn't real either. But again,
it's real enough for her. Like,
still play. Yeah.
But it just shows how alone she is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it works to drive or to further her narrative and actually understand how she looks at things, especially powers, it seems. But I also wanted to bring up David's little loop, or the thing that he got stuck in, where he went to
you mean
see
when
his
he
mom.
became Doctor Strange?
Yeah,
yes, and then he flipped them off 7 times.
I forgot that happened.
Yeah. I mean, was it Vishnu who has that many arms?
Yeah, it's Vishnu.
He throws the Vishnu arms and flips the time demons off with all of his hands.
And then burns one of them. Yeah.
And then it's just like, "Hey, time demons, here's my dick. Go tell the other people how big it is and fuck off."
he Liam Neeson's a bunch of time demons. He's like, "I have many skills."
Well, Liam Neeson's
I will kill you.
That ties into him showing off what he has as well.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I did look for a second though. I was like, "Oh no, he's Savitar," because he was like in every instance of the situation where I'm like, I still don't see why that was going to be pragmatic for him. Works for you in the moment though.
Mm-hmm.
Erik, you didn't start watching around then, did you?
No.
So, real quick,
I've stopped completely.
Savitar's goal in season 3 was to project himself across every moment in time, and all we could do was go, "Why though?"
What?
That doesn't. To what ends?
Immortality? But
like what?
Because Doctor Who did it 2 seasons ago, and we have to copy Doctor Who.
He wants to be there when I dropped a slushie when I was like 6. Like, what is
right?
What?
Why is he?
Everyone's
it's because he's not a real boy.
Which real boy.
To kind of combine, like we saw, and I forgot to bring this up in the last one, but it ties into part because we see the mom again. Mm-hmm. She had the doll for the angriest boy.
Yeah.
You saw it. You saw it in the prior episode too, in David's crib.
Yes, but she had it in the asylum.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but that's the thing. We don't know how much of that was actually true. What he was seeing of his mom in the asylum,
right?
Well, but it was the past though would switch in the first episode 3, not the one in this one. It wasn't her in the concentration camp; it was her in the asylum.
Oh, in the asylum, yeah.
She has it in the box.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
what
is this doll?
He was.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think
in the crib.
It's probably just an ugly doll that she always had, and she just passed it on. And I think it probably terrified him when he was a child.
Actually, that's where we're gonna find out.
Because when Xavier looked at it, he was like, "Okay, the fuck is this?"
Yeah, he does have that kind of reaction. I wonder if the doll's gonna play some other part, like. Maybe David's going to leave a psychic message in the doll or something. I don't know.
Or he's going to inhabit the doll and battle Farooq while being in the doll Chucky style.
He's going to use voodoo. He's going to use voodoo, and he's going to implant his soul into the doll.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Going to be like and then he's going to make 7 shitty movies? Thanks.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly where I was going with that, too.
I'm just remembering that, like, they used that doll a ton in season 1. Like, the imagery of it, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was the bad little boy, and that was part of his horror
Yeah,
show missions.
Yeah, it was one of Farooq's mini forms. One of his.
Which to me, it's actually an interesting thing to like. Why did Farouk choose to become this like yellow-eyed fat monstrosity when he's this super suave?
I think that
Albanian man.
His actual form, because Amal Farouk, that body he has is not his real body. I don't think. Well, he says
no, it's his original body.
Been called his real body.
Well, they say
it's his original body.
We don't know if that's what it looks like though, because
it could be a mental projection.
Yeah.
Yeah. He might be like an old, frail man. Like, what's that fucking movie? I can't remember what it is. Where there's like an immortal guy who's like super bony and he's like just a skeleton with skins over it, or skin over it.
So Kelly Conway?
Yeah.
I didn't get any of that.
Yeah,
something about Kellyanne Conway.
Yeah, or like Blade 2, the head vampire in Blade 2, something like that.
Oh, okay. Or you could just say like the Emperor Skeksis from the Dark Crystal.
Sure. Sure.
I am Emperor.
Or the guy in Last Crusade who chooses poorly, like that guy, as he's
yes,
slowly degrading.
Slowly. That motherfucker got Dorian Grade.
We didn't want to kill you this way, but I guess that's how it would be. Let's see. Where were we?
All over the place with this episode.
Well,
we covered a lot. We had to cover a lot of ground with this episode.
Yeah. After David lights the thing on fire, they all piss off on it everywhere.
Yeah.
And then Amal brings them all back, and then I'm trying to remember what the ending shot of the episode is.
It's David realizing that Switch has been taken, so he's
like, "This is war."
He's like, "War is what you want," or something to that effect.
Yeah, Carrie took her into a refrigerator.
He's like, I'm rescuing you.
Well, that was the callback to the first episode because they escaped the house by going through the tunnel.
Yeah.
Which.
Yeah.
How we
still there?
Well,
even though the house has moved.
Yeah, but I assume that thing exists outside of space and time. It's
space-time.
It's probably created exclusively by David DeBiso because he needed to be something like that.
They end up in an alley and then they're in the refrigerator and then mail carry James Bond codes his way into fixing the computer glitch.
Yeah.
You don't see him doing it. He says manual override, blah blah blah, and then jump cuts them on the ship, and he's like, yes, that went well.
Basically presses that little button that's in like the pinhole for 30 seconds, and then
factory reset on Ptolemy.
Which he unscrews the bottom part of the phone and puts in his own. I was like, okay, so this is a public phone inside of a refrigerator?
Mm-hmm. That's how it works, though. I've seen 3 Days of the Condor having
asking questions at this point in the show's lifespan that I don't think you really know what show this is.
I just need to make sure that those things actually happened.
Like, was that a payphone refrigerator? Yes. Okay, I'm just asking.
Yeah, just clearing that up.
But it's like, it's not just as a payphone refrigerator. It sounds like, I guess that's a thing, and then he has to adjust that to magically call the Airbus that's flying around the sky.
Yeah.
I mean, it was on loan from Maxwell Smart. He was off doing.
No,
I still think it's the one from Final Fantasy VII.
I would say it was. They called Sid Highwind.
Yeah.
God damn it. But yeah, is there anything else we really want to say about this episode?
I think that's it because it's just we had to kind of talk a lot real fast.
Go all over the place.
It's not a plot-heavy episode. It's more like character development and just like. How do these different people deal with this situation, basically?
Well, it's the first time we've gotten an episode that isn't about plot, really, like you said. Like it's letting them kind of start to be a little bit more free because I mean they had to spend the first 2 episodes kind of getting us to where we're at this point. and then we got this flashback episode, and now we've got this one, and
it's a setup episode.
The next 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I have a question we can ponder real fast, and that is, do we think David dies at the end of the show?
Yes.
I don't know.
For me, does. Yeah.
I think for all intents and purposes, he's dead.
Right.
I think the version of David we have now is, but that doesn't mean David himself is gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I think that we see, regardless of anything else, he is not on this version of Earth in this time going forward.
Yeah.
So
he
could end up in the past. He could end up in the future. He could be like a consciousness floating through space. I don't know. Or he could like
moon. He builds a big glass castle.
Right. Put him. That could be puts himself in another dimension. Exists in the the space between spaces. Who knows? Something of that nature. I think is sort of where his future goes.
I think it can only end with either him dead, him and Farooq dying or trapping themselves somewhere else together, or like I said, him aborting himself or something like that.
Yeah,
the kind of butterfly.
I could see
thing.
Farooq and him like just staying in an eternal stalemate somewhere. Like David pulls off the final trick, and Farooq is just like, my boy, and that would be the end of them.
I do feel like this story does. I think the story goes in one of 2 directions, though. Before he dies or whatever, he either achieves some sort of redemption, or he goes down believing that he was right all along, and he dies in some tragic way. It's got to go one way or the other, and I still don't see a reason why both aren't possible at this moment. I think Ollie knows that we might not accept him getting a redemption arc at this moment, but I'm willing to go with it if it's set up well and the show does the legwork to make that work. So.
Honestly, I'm not even really trying to guess where it's going to go because I think Noah Hawley is going to surprise all of us. Like,
I actually have more fun the less I think about it while I'm watching it.
Exactly.
I just hope that we see more of at least the mom. I think she does such a great job.
We're not done with Xavier. We're not done with Xavier by a long time.
I want to see like more of that.
In fact, I am very confident he's going to show up at the end of this season.
I would by the end of the show, we see like very clear X-Men setup.
No.
Maybe not as like concrete from Erik, but like he goes to find another mutant and
it's Wolverine.
That'd
be really funny. Wolverine's just like, fuck off.
I feel like that's a little bit too on the nose.
Yeah,
like
to me, it's
here's the thing. Here's why I agree, but at the same time, if they're going for sort of with the theory of David's timeline where he's crazy and all that, that's the bad timeline where there are no X-Men, and we assume that that's why there are no X-Men. That David is the reason that they don't exist. Then in the timeline where he does not exist anymore or where he has no effect, you kind of do need to do the X-Men as sort of the fulfilling of that equation. In my opinion.
I'm rejecting all of that because I don't know what's going to happen, and I think it fool's errand to try and figure out what Noah Hawley is doing.
My only thing,
honestly,
Erik is just like, surrender yourself to the chaos of the universe.
He has to explain where Xavier is.
Right.
That's the only thing.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. They're like, why is he not involved in any way between this battle between? At this point, it's been 3 of the world's most powerful psychics. Mm-hmm. Now it's down to 2 of them.
Also, since we know now that this is either the late 60s, like probably mid 70s, or the early 80s, that is prime time where there should be an X-Men team. Active.
But we've established from the first season that this show does not give 2 shits about the X-Men.
No, I agree.
Yeah, this is some weird alternate universe because they basically like we got a pseudo X-Men in season 2 with when they were in the woods or whatever that was, or was that season 1?
I think what we're getting at is that we might see a version of a prototype X-Men team, but not the. Like, I don't think we'll see
I
Cyclops. I don't think we'll see Jean Grey. I don't think we'll see any named mutants. I think we'll see people who are attending a school, or Professor Charles is like, maybe I should establish somewhere where people can learn to manage their ability, not just manage their abilities, but like learn how to be loved and learn how to be managed and learn how to, have people around them who can keep them from turning into my son.
Well, it's like we still haven't explained or haven't been given in these 4 episodes why they give up David.
Yeah,
it appears is the mom comatose at the end of 3 in that past?
I don't know.
It seems like Xavier can't wake her.
Well, we also don't know what happens after that because we leave the room after that point. So.
Yes, exactly. But like, we don't know why he gives David up. So from David, like being under 1 to his entire adult life, has never seen him really again.
Because Xavier is kind of a prick, and that's why he's off
making more babies that are turned into supervillains.
Right.
And I mean, if just the comics, this isn't what I'm saying is happening in this, but in the comics, the whole reason he left his wife, who he had David with, was because he was off with Magneto, figuring shit out. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I think they're kind of established, at least with the prior episode, that he's just a man who's going to go do whatever he wants because of mutants.
Man, hold on. I just had a thought. What if this ends with not Magneto, but Farooq, and that is this universe's stand-in for Erik?
Well, I could see that.
Well, there's a couple of things that they have changed, because when he meets Farooq in the comics is when he encounters Storm.
Yep, because she was working for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. At most I could see Xavier showing up and for David's last minutes on Earth, whatever it is, or fighting against David and, apologizing to him as he passes on. And that would be about all the more we would get. I feel like it would be too on the nose, and it wouldn't really work with how this entire show has been structured. Like, they've gone out of their way to not mention the X-Men. So it would feel like a betrayal to have it be at the very end and be like, I need to establish a school. Like,
or
anything
a
along those
studio
lines.
mandate.
I
don't know.
Under the absence of them not require it at some point.
I would be more surprised of an X-Men thing than for the final episode to pull out and David's being lobotomized. It's that in the hospital in the beginning of the first episode.
I mean, the show is very Brazil-esque, so I could definitely see that ending.
It's like I could see total Jacob's Ladder. Like, he saw Sid, they bring him into a room and put an ice pick in his eye, and or squirrel out his brain.
I would be happier with that than I would be if it was the on the nose. Like, I need to make a school. Yeah. Like, I don't want that. I don't want that at all.
I think it could be he's on Cerebro and he sees, like, I don't know, fucking Beast doing some shit, whatever.
It's just like, I guess I'm going to hold on to, like, because again, it's like, where is he? We don't know that he's even alive at this point.
That's the other thing that we really don't know. Like, I really do assume that David, being the way he is, has been the cause of this. Otherwise, we should have gotten an answer by now, like of some sort, even a throwaway answer of, like, there were an X-Men, or there was this super team that ran around, but nobody ever heard from them again. They disappeared or something. But there's no answer whatsoever. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll find out. Like I said, and like Connor pointed out as well, just give into the chaos. Just enjoy the show for what it is. Don't try and predict it.
I think we can end on that.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So I've been Connor McGraw. Our blockbuster bomb season finally officially kicked off. Clash of Titans came out today. I listened to about half of it, and good shit. There's jokes I forgot all about, including Joe's follow-up joke to my Mads Mikkelsen one, where he mixed a Duran Duran joke that I'm sure only a few people will appreciate. But we still got Green Lantern Reign of Fire, which has taken me over a week to watch because we keep having to move the fucking episode, and now I hate this movie. So I'm gonna roll into that episode really negative. Green Lantern, Pluto Nash, Deep Rising, and 13th Warrior are on the slates for the rest of the summer. So that's one big giant.
13th Warrior as like the Antonio Banderas movie.
Yep,
I love that movie.
Cannibals.
Lots of people do. I've never seen it, but apparently it was a monumental bomb, and it just vanished without a fucking trace.
I didn't even know that was considered a blockbuster. It's like
it was. I guess it would be considered like a big release, but it didn't do well. And Deep Rising came out in like 95. It's a fucking awesome monster movie, and no one talks about it.
I don't even know what Deep Rising is.
Deep Rising came out around the same time as Leviathan and Deep Star 6, if I remember correctly, and they're all kind of the same movie.
It's a movie. It's a movie about it's a squid-esque monster, but it's way more.
It's like a giant tentacle, basically.
Yeah, it's a giant, awful monster who sucks people through toilet seats. And Treat Williams rides a jet ski with a shotgun. And fights it inside of a cruise liner, I think. It's awesome. And Green Lantern Arlen's going to be on that one. And as I've said before, it's going to be time for Joe to see what it's like to be a DC fan.
Oh, yeah.
That Marvel-loving son of a bitch. That's all my plugs for now. I'll pass it on to whoever wants to go next.
I guess look forward to that episode where me and Connor will slowly torture Joe with DC feels.
And Sean's a big DC fan too.
Yeah, we'll do that. And then
3-on-1, he has no chance.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I'm not nervous about that at all.
You'll be fine.
I'm sure I will. I'm training up. I'm going to the gym. I'm getting movie dumpster shape. Look forward to that episode, which will come out.
I don't know. I'll let you know when. Eventually. We don't have a schedule for this yet. We're just kind of doing whatever feels right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Flying by the seat of the pants. I'm not used to that at all. Look forward to that. And then Lost Horror Podcast, bi-weekly show at the moment. So go listen to our last episode, which was sort of what we were watching that week. Talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We touch on just about everything to talk about with that movie. So if you have opinions, go listen to ours. And then we're doing a sort of Fast and the Furious retrospective, kind of. We're not really reviewing them. We're sort of just talking about them as a series, how we feel about them.
First they were okay, and then they were bad, and then they were good again.
Yeah, that's how most people talk about it, at least. So yeah, and that's of course tying into Hobbs and Shaw, which we will probably watch around the time we record. So yeah, go do all that stuff.
Tallboy's Wi-Fi gave out because he also has tall Wi-Fi. So I will take over the third position of spots or plugs. Plug spots? Spot
tall
plugs.
Wi-Fi?
Yes, he has tall Wi-Fi. I'm Erik Fedorchik, as we said at the top of the show, and you can find me at Erik_Fedor on Instagram, where there's pictures of dogs and cats and food and comics. Recently, some comics have popped up again because I've found some amazing deals. I had one day that I got 5 Morrison books in the mail, and it was
so
awesome.
Jealous.
And I was so happy, and I spent less than $120 on them. You can also find me floating around the Phantom Zone. I've been posting a whole lot recently. Mostly at this point, I just find weird comic panels and post them, or things that I think are funny that other people should enjoy. And to answer the question earlier, the name of the characters were Peabody and Mr. Sherman.
There we go.
Or Mr. Peabody and Sherman. That's it.
Yes.
And apparently there's multiple movies apparently animated of them, and I'm actually working on a third one where
No.
Well, would you rather I talk about how tentacle monsters sucking you off on a toilet is kind of like going to a New York bus stop?
I'll take option 2. We end the show and not give you the opportunity. Lou did his plugs, right?
No, I did not.
Yeah, that's...
So let me talk about unfurling and...
Stop it! Stop using the word unfurl.
Speaking of unfurling, you can check out Smallville Chronicles. You have that. So check that out. I think our last episode we had a person who's been in both the CW and Gotham and Smallville, playing all different characters. She played Golden Glider, so she played Lucy Lane. And then on Tuesdays we have And Now Comics, where you can get all your Doomsday Clock delay news and everything else we talked about with comic books. And then we did drop an episode of Legion of Toon. We went over everything that basically got announced around San Diego, which was a ton of animated news, like a new Rocketeer show. And check all that stuff out.
Interesting.
Yeah. LoisHarrow.wordpress.com. 5 stars. Subscribe to everything. Hit the bell on YouTube. And tell friends.
Yes.
About all the shows.
I just wanted to point out, I kind of love how Lou isn't directly saying anything horrific, but if it came down to it, he wouldn't be fighting me on it either.
No, we're not.
It's
funny.
It's an even distribution across the field.
Fucking double agent over there.
Yeah.
Which makes me need to bring up the fact that I've seen penis with teeth.
That was a hard
my show, Confidential. No, that was a WB show. What the hell was this fucking show? Conspiracy?
Oh god, the one with when he had. Oh, does he still have his ponytail and live in Mexico now?
I think he still lives in Mexico, but I don't think he has a ponytail. I think his hair is going too quickly at this point.
At what point is it no longer a ponytail and you're just bald with a bad rat tail?
That's called a gullet.
Yes,
Paul Heyman has had one for 20 years. So,
but he hasn't seen the things that I've seen.
Okay. All right. Bye, Jesse. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Nipples bleeding.
Oh my God.